Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast. It is Wednesday, the 19th of March. Can you believe it? Already more than halfway through March already. Myself, Ryan Paisley, and the awesome Angie Setzer, mainly Angie, will be providing a rapid roundup of the latest pricing, flows, and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before we do, let's get the legals out of the way. So as usual, nothing discussed on this space session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ Global Limited, trades PIQ or PIQ Suite, or indeed the hosts, which as you know by now is the amazing Angie and myself, Ryan. Hello. Well, happy. Oh, I've already forgot what day it was. I just said it. Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday. Yeah, I wrote
All day.
Wednesday, March 14th this morning for some reason. I don't even think there was a March 14th. So yeah,
No, there
I
wasn't.
don't know how it's the 19th, honestly. But at least I've fast forwarded ahead. Like for the start of the month, I was living like the weekend before Valentine's Day. In my mind, it was just February 10th on repeat forever. So at least we're progressing here. I don't know.
Does
It's
that mean
weird.
is that because Carl was giving you like it's just Valentine's Day every day for you, I guess, with big
Yeah,
Carl?
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
hope
it
he's
is. You
listening.
got
If he's
it.
listening.
Nope, you got it. You got it. So, but yeah, so good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Thunderdome. Another day, another dollar, perhaps, win or lose. So where we're at right now, there's a lot of headlines. And one of the things I started with, like in my comments this morning, is I was like, well, the flow of news seems to be slowing. Like, do you feel like it's not new headlines coming out every day? Like, it's just, we're not getting rapid fire punched in the face, but it's a lot of the same stories that we're trying to kind of meet out, if you will, or
Yeah.
learn more about what exactly is taking like. But it doesn't feel like it's as rapid, at least. So we've got that going for us. The biggest thing that we're looking at, and it's just kind of same stories, different days, right? We're learning more about the reciprocal tariffs. Treasury Secretary Bessent has been kind of sent on the media journey. Apparently, at least that's what it looks like at this point in time. He was had a couple different interviews yesterday where we got to get a little bit more in the way of insight into what's taking place there. And so, according to Vicent and according to what we're seeing, it looks like each country will be given a number, and then that number will kind of correspond with their tariff level. And really, when it comes down to it, Vicent kind of said the quiet part out loud, or maybe it's not even the quiet part, the loud part out loud. And was like, hey, if you pull off your tariffs ahead of time, well, you won't have any, and you won't have to worry
Yeah.
about it. And so we're still trying to figure out who's going to be targeted how. And then, of course, there's a whole question of legality. When it comes down to it, like the things that he's been doing when it comes to certain industries or targeting products or however that works, it's, cleaner at customs. Like, okay, this falls under this product code, this gets hit with this tariff. Whereas a reciprocal number or just a blanket, like you're from this country, it costs you this much to ride on this ride
Yeah.
type thing. We're still trying to figure out how he can do it. The administration, I say we, the administration and onlookers, like I'm involved in any of it,
You're a policymaker.
yeah, like I'm watching the Lions on Sunday. We sure hit a nice tackle, the same sort of situation there, right? But so they're still trying to figure out what it is. Like, how can we legally tackle this unilateral sort of decision? Doing something that is supposed to fall under congressional power. Again, not a political statement. It's amazing what can be considered a political statement when you say things. It's just what's going on. There's a
Yeah.
conversation currently. U.S. Trade Representative head Jameson Greer, who's supposed to be the legal mind, and like Commerce Secretary Letnick have been tasked with finding that route, and the route that's supposed to be impervious to legal, rigmarole once we get to April 3rd, 4th, whatever. And so that's going to be the biggest focus right now is just what does this mean?
Yeah.
How does it impact trade? Who gets hit with what? We did hear the 15% of countries will make up the bulk of the tariffs charged, and so there's going to be a lot of really interesting developments there still over the next 2 weeks. I think is what we're looking at here. 2 very long weeks that will somehow fly by. I don't understand it, but kind of riding piggyback on the tariff talk as we are hearing more vocal opposition. Thank the Lord. I've been waiting for more people to kind of read the AI summary of these port fees and kind of do the math and be like, oh shit, that's bad news. And we're seeing it.
Finally, someone else has
Right,
noticed.
I'm like, "Thank God it's not just me being like, 'Excuse me, sir, you know this,'" and it's not, I'm not saying that by any means. Jay O'Neill's been doing a fantastic job, really getting out in front of this, and I have to give a hat tip to him, kind of his conversation on Twitter was what really, brought my mind where I was like, "Oh, we
Yeah,
do have to focus on this." But, we did start to hear more in the way of vocal opposition from different shipping groups or are hearing it from different shipping groups. Like yesterday, one of the largest direct member trade groups in commercial shipping was like, not only is this going to take the US backwards, it's not necessarily guaranteed to do anything to help change China's dominance in the industry. Now, there are people that are like, hey, something needs to be done. This is a great way to do it, yada, yada, yada. But again, when you start to look at it from a bulk commodity export standpoint, or any of those types of things, there's going to be costs and it's going to become cost prohibitive in a lot of ways. And there's been people that are like, it's not that big a deal. And like you'll do what you got to do to access non-Chinese built vessels or fleets that are not
yeah,
made up of Chinese built vessels. It's just not going to work, especially because you're looking at this mandate to move certain a portion of U.S. products under on U.S. made vessels and yada yada yada. So good thing is we are starting to see more in the way of outside groups, not just agriculture. Though I would knock 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 to anyone, U.S. Grains Council, National Corn Growers, Soybean Association, whatever. Like we pay money. I say we farmers pay money to kind of have you represent them. I would like more in the way of a vocal like this is a big deal. We can't let this happen.
yeah. But
And
this is the time for the farmers and people that are paying them to get their money's worth, right?
yes,
This is
exactly.
exactly
Like
why you're
this is what
paying
we
them.
pay lobbyists for. Like E15 is great, but take your eye off
So
from that ball for 5 seconds and focus on one, that could cost a farmer 50 cents a bushel of corn if he taps into an export market. He,
yeah,
she, they, whoever. But that's one of the things that we're paying attention to and watching, which has led to really interesting dynamics in cash trade. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight, today, is that the uncertainty in the future of global trade has created some really interesting dynamics in the overall physical market, around the world. Like we have some political unrest in Turkey and rising food costs that are causing, some interest. It's not so much that Turkey's leader arrested or had his biggest contender. I mean, like that's Turkey and Romania right now, where we've got some interesting things going on with people taking contenders out of the contention, if you will. But not necessarily in like the two things may not be related, but you have seen Turkey come out and say, "Hey, we're going to open up the door to 1 million metric ton of corn imports at a reduced tariff rate," and they may also be opening the door to greater wheat imports. So one of the things that hurt the wheat market last year in October was Turkey kind of shut their door to wheat imports. We saw Egypt slow down. There's a lack of transparency in the Egyptian wheat market now that they've changed their approach. There's not as much in the way of open tenders, yada, yada, yada. And so Turkey is kind of opening themselves up to an increase in imports, which fun for you guys to kind of, at
well,
a party. Um,
also
yeah.
just worth noting on Turkey. So the lira's fallen out of bed this morning because Erdogan has arrested his what was thought to be one of his partners in crime, maybe literally,
A partner in
the
crime,
mayor
not
of
someone. Yeah.
Istanbul. On apparently, I think if I recall correctly from the overnight news roundup, the blog we put out each morning, I believe it's on corruption and terrorism allegations. But yeah,
Yes.
it's
It's so there's some issues there that are showing up, in a big way. But like kind of fun to point out is Iraq is going
oh,
to or agreed to allow 2 million metric tons worth of wheat exports overnight.
I
So
almost forgot Iraq was still around. I
right, they
I
are.
can't remember the last time someone mentioned Iraq.
Maybe we could say this as a sign. I'm speaking out of turn entirely, but as the USAID, you know what I mean? The USAID has kind of been pointed to as like, oh, they're not doing much of anything and whatever. Again, not a political statement. But we did see Iraq. They have modernized and improved their food production in the country to such a great extent that the government has agreed that they will allow 2 million metric tons of
Awesome.
wheat exports, excuse me, this coming year.
Well,
So to
so a
see
nice, like so finally, like a very nice, good news story from a region or an area that potentially was almost written off not so long ago.
it's kind of interesting to think about, in my opinion, and so hat tip to Rory at the Friars Report for talking about it this morning, and kind of saying like this could be a big swing in available supply in the global market. You used to have Iraq be a multi-million metric ton importer. You used to
Yeah.
have a tremendous amount of food aid and things like that. And now they may be also kind of putting wheat out into the world. Now, it'll probably be free trade, some, ebb and flow and blah, blah, blah. But I thought it'd be fun. So when you go to a party this weekend, guys, you can tell everyone that Iraq's a wheat exporter now and throw mines. And so there's
I
also a
certainly
lot
will.
of stuff, right? Good. Look at you. You don't even have to give me a hat tip. I probably, it's all you. So on the cash trade side, those are just kind of, they're not really big needle movers, but they're just fun things to look at. The big needle movers right now are what we're seeing go on in Brazil and what we're starting to see happen in the US here, but most importantly, Brazil. One of the things that our friend Eduardo has pointed out at AgriInvest is like Brazilian bean basis right now is one of the highest that you've seen or is at one of the highest levels that you've seen in quite some time with what is supposed to be the biggest crop. And so one of the things that I've been arguing about for a while, and Nico and I kind of he pointed out this morning, like a decoupling potentially from U.S. futures prices and some of these other things. And to me, I think it's more of an indication of the decoupling from supply availability and necessarily price, because the farmers around the world have figured out ways to keep grain and oil seeds out of the pipeline. They're getting smarter about storage and things. You've got farmer cooperatives, you've got a bunch of different setups that you've seen to where we're starting to keep grain out of the pipeline. We're starting to use it more in these domestic market structures and things like that. So like in Brazil, we're seeing new contract highs in corn with basis firming 30 cents or more over the last month. I mean, there are a lot of things that are going on in the cash market that are still pointing to exceptionally tight supplies and very strong demand. Now, the biggest thing that we're going to be watching here in the US, and then I'll shut up, is what happens with the spread, the May July spread. Currently, I am starting to see basis firm in a lot of places, which you should see basis, then spreads, and then hopefully futures.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk because of the wider amount of carry between the May and July that we could be in for a negative surprise at the end of the month with quarterly stocks. Like maybe this is a sign that there's more supply available than not. I argue that the spread is wide because of the unprecedented flow of grain into the pipeline around the world, especially though here in the US, where you had basically a half a crop from 23 get dumped into the end of the summer and start of the fall in 2024. And then you had a lot of 2024 crop get sold, between the end of harvest and the first part of February. And so what we'll be watching here over the next few weeks is just what happens with that spread once we get into April, what happens with basis, and that'll give us a better indication of whether or not we are as tight as what some folks think, is the carry out 1.2, 1.3 because of high exports and yada, 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 or is it 1.7, or something like that because we have more supply available than what we thought we did, and the spread's pointing towards a bigger supply availability, but that's not necessarily a guarantee. So lots of things to be watching. We got lots of trade uncertainty, freight uncertainty. Cash trade is firming up around the world, which should help to, offset some of these increased costs that we're seeing in
Nice.
trade and freight and yada yada. But yeah, we get a rate decision today too. Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's too
apparently
much
there's something
going
called
on.
an FOMC later on.
Yeah,
Where did that come from?
I was like,
Just
that's
also,
happening.
just worth a quick update on like this. Is it a ceasefire? Is it not a ceasefire? It's potentially, it's
That's a
obviously not a
thing too,
ceasefire.
huh? That's important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's still going on. Obviously, for those not aware, so the original deal was a ceasefire on energy targets, though apparently Russia have already broken that and hit energy infrastructure related to the Ukrainian National Railway Service or network. So that's obviously off the table straight away by the looks of it. I've read this morning that there is going to be a US envoy meeting with the Russians again in Jeddah, I believe on Sunday. It might be Saturday, but I think it's Sunday. So again, be careful for obviously weekend gapping risk on headlines based on that. And also, just before we came on air, I saw a headline saying that Trump is meeting Zelensky, having a phone call with Zelensky at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So again, keep your eyes out for headline risk around that.
Right. Yeah, because Zelensky's saying Russia has rejected the ceasefire. Russia is saying that they did not. There was an article where they said, I don't know if you saw that, where they're like, listen, we shot down
Yeah, our
drones
own
to
stuff.
avoid
Yeah,
an accidental. I'm like, am I being gaslit by the Kremlin?
yeah, right.
Like,
This is it.
that's not.
Also, it didn't help that last night, Russia's Medvedev. Obviously, we know he's incredibly like fiery in his language. But he said of the Putin-Trump call that was yesterday, apparently, quote, shows that there is only Russia and the US, I quote, in the dining room, quote, eating Kiev-style cutlets as main course. So thanks for that. Yeah, cheers. Really helpful language there.
Yeah, he is always like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lyrical.
he's the guy that
He's,
he's the guy that's been calling for like yeah, was it tactical nukes for like from day one of the war. So yeah, it's kind of
yes.
pinch of salt needed with him. Thankfully. um
Yeah. It's always good to have a little bit of context for sure when looking at anything that he has to say, but
yeah,
still interesting in and of itself, because
just
that,
knowing what he's saying internally, exactly that. I think, it's always good to see
yeah.
what they think their own people and stuff. And again, we are not political on the show, we're just trying to state the facts.
Yeah, it is interesting. So there is a Trump meeting likely. It says you're just reading the headlines now, but Witkoff says that that's on its way soon.
Perfect.
So yeah, it'll be real interesting. We got a bunch of weather things going on in the wheat market too. But yeah, buckle up, put your seatbelt on. All of the cliches that go with things are going to be crazy. Because yeah, it's going to be fun. The next month, I say fun,
Yeah. Well, yeah,
relative.
decade.
So, but
Oh
yeah,
god.
that's about it for now. Just 77, topics each morning to discuss, and 15 minutes or less today. That's what we're going
Exactly.
for. So,
Well,
you guys
Angie,
have a
thank
good
you
one.
so much as always. You're an absolute rock star. I'm very grateful that you do this show with me. I think it's brilliant. And our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Goodbye.
See you later.